Everybody get up, no need to cram now. We got a real jam going down, going down, going down, going down, going down, going down. Welcome to the IntelliJAMS.
What's going on, Alex?
Learn at a glance at
It's time to jam.
I'm pumped. What your turn this week? What do you want to jam on?
So you and the squad have been super busy working on a big product update. We've kind of like revamped our entire analytics. I want to jam on that.
That sounds great. It feels like so long ago now, just because there's been so much that's happened since we started to roll this out now. But I'm super pumped about our new analytics.
I get shop talk, tariffs, so many things have come up, and we need to give it some airtime.
For sure. Okay. Because actually, like, I think this is probably one of our biggest updates and deployments that we've ever had. So I think this is a pretty exciting one. So as you mentioned, huge update to our analytics. There's functionality that we've added in custom events, custom metrics, ability to set goals. There's a lot of just stylistic and design changes that we made, and there's a lot under the hood too that we changed. So, a couple different directions that we could go with this. What do you think folks want to start with?
I don't know what people are going to want to hear first, but I think like one of the things that's most top of mind for me is I've been on social over the last little bit, and like something that keeps on coming up is like IntelliJAMS needs to provide like some sort of like anxiety inducing things when a test first starts. And I think in the past it was, hey, I need to wait a bit before I start seeing the results. And that was like a little anxiety inducing. And then that now with these updates, it happens so fast that we have kind of the flip of this is, oh, I'm seeing a 300% increase. Like, is this going to hold? Or like, oh, it's like crazy in one direction. So maybe talk about like the real time nature of this. I think that was like one of the biggest changes.
Yeah, dude. And this is like, there's a product angle and an engineering angle to this. And it's so hard to get this right. So let me start with, before this, we had a data ingestion pipeline that has been our pipeline since basically we started the company, which was we ingest all the data. It goes to a big data warehouse, we were using Snowflake. We were running dbt on that when we were early on. And even up until recently, that scaled really well. It was really easy to maintain. It's like pretty classic data architecture in sort of a modern stack. But we were getting to the point where it was very expensive to run. It was taking a long time. And each run was very much a batch. And so every hour or every hour and a half it would run, and it would do the batch of that hour and a half, and it would take 45 minutes to run. So what you were seeing is our data would be on like an hour to 2 hour lag. And that's not crazy. I mean, a lot of the data, even like when Google Optimize was providing data, you didn't necessarily see data for today. And a lot of the data is aggregated on a daily basis. So I don't think that we were that far off the mark. But when you start a test and it's a big, potentially high stakes thing, and you see a dashboard that's like, we're working on pulling your data in for an hour and a half, that could be pretty anxiety inducing. So one of the components that was a really big part of this was just reinventing our data ingestion pipeline from the ground up. And we don't have to get into that. This is not a tech podcast, but like there are a lot of AWS managed services. There's Kafka. There's a database technology called ClickHouse. We use a technology and a provider called Tinybird. So there's a lot of new things under the hood here for the data ingestion and surfacing all that data. But what it means is that from the second that an event is emitted, meaning someone views one of the pages on your website or places an order in Shopify and they emit an order to us, that data then becomes available in that dashboard in seconds. So you should start seeing data immediately. Data is flowing constantly. There is no batch updating. It is constantly real time, and it is real time and fresh within about 10 to 15 seconds. So, if you just refresh and refresh and refresh. And I don't necessarily want to encourage you to do that too much because that induces a lot of cost for us. But all the data is really fresh, which creates new problems for us, which like you mentioned, like you start a test 8 minutes in, 3 orders come in group 1 order comes in group 2, and all of a sudden it looks like there's a 300% increase or 200% increase from group 2 to group 1. And that can feel pretty scary as well. So how to balance the like scariness of not knowing with the scariness of just knowing the smallest little bit too fast. So gosh, trade off one problem for another problem, but I think we're still making steps in the right direction.
I think like I'd rather have the latter problem than the first,
Yeah.
especially like you were talking about the anxiety of it, but there's also the like troubleshooting component of it. Like if I can see things coming in real time, I can see if there like was an issue with how I set it up or anything like that pretty quickly. And like a lot can happen in an hour and a
Yeah.
half. Like a lot can
No,
happen in 2 hours.
and that actually comes back to another component of this feature, and this launch was around custom events. So in the past, before this, in order to configure custom events, you needed to fire JavaScript. So meaning if you wanted, for example, someone clicked on a button, or someone expanded an accordion, or viewed a specific page, or scrolled to a certain page depth, for all of those things, you would need a developer to fire a custom JavaScript event. Now, all of those things that I just mentioned can be set up in our UI, so you can button clicks, elements visible, page depth scrolls, viewed specific pages, collections pages generally, a specific product pages generally, like all of these things are events that are just baked into our interface, and you can define them, modify them if there are specific elements, for example, that you care about, or specific pages that you're trying to track. So all of that is, we've surfaced that to users to be able to just define on their own. But then there's still the ability to fire these custom events, or there's the configuration of it. And in the before times, it was a little bit of a shot in the dark, or you're flying blind in that you're firing these custom events, but you don't really know if it's working. And there's no really good way to know if you were using our API correctly or if it was coming through. And I just set up a test for someone that they wanted to fire custom events on the submission of SMS to PostScript. And so it's like on submit of my SMS capture, I want to fire a custom event for that because I'm trying to measure how many people submit SMS in group A versus group B. And I helped them set that up. And what was so fun was like, okay, I've got a private browsing window. I can like see that I'm triggering, or I'm trying to trigger that event. I go back to IntelliJAMS. I can see, okay, now that event's been fired twice in the last 24 hours. It's like, okay, it's working. It's coming through. I'm seeing it. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of a like that peace of mind as well. Like when you mentioned troubleshooting and debugging, I think that's like a really good use case for it too, is like, I'm trying to set something up. How do I know that it's working? Oh, it's because the data flows through immediately. So now I know.
The peace of mind component of it, but from custom, like one, the UI is super slick. Like compared to how you had to set up custom events before, night and day. Like team absolutely crushed it. The custom events for me is really interesting too, because like if you are a listener of this show, one thing that we jam a lot on is like, hey, you can look at the numbers, but there's all these things like all these customer journey components that could play into all of these tests, and like custom events just like give some, how would you go use this? Like to Adam's point, accordion got expanded. Like there are all these things that you might want to know are happening as a precursor to the actual results. And these custom events let you track and understand the behavior with a lot more certainty than you'd get just by kind of like looking at the results, if that makes sense.
And I think also something I've written about, or maybe Drew also wrote about this in our newsletter, is about being skeptical and challenging the results and not taking things at face value. So yeah, I see conversion rates up 20%, but then the question is why. I would have expected, if this feature that I'm introducing really impacted conversion rate, I would expect people to interact with it. And so now the question is, well, are people interacting with it at the rate that I would expect that would at least justify that increase in conversion? And if not, maybe there's some other confounding thing that actually led to it, or maybe it's just sort of variance. So I think that trying to be able to be skeptical and understand the why for a result is a really important thing that we're trying to help brands do a lot better of a job at.
Yeah, and custom events is going to do that. And I think like the other kind of like customizable component of this is like the basically deciding what metrics are important to you. Now, we were just talking earlier today about like being opinionated about some of these metrics. And like the only one that I'm super opinionated on is like, I think everyone should be looking at profit per visitor when they are evaluating something. But the rest of it is really pretty situational and like brand dependent. So in this new analytics framework, like the user, you, the listener, are able to control exactly what you want to see and what's the most important to you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think to your point, the four that we default surface for every test and recommend that you look at is profit per visitor, revenue per visitor, conversion rate, and AOV. And those four things are obviously really core to every e-commerce business. But then I'm running a test on email capture. I want to know what percentage of people submitted their email information. And obviously, I also care about conversion rate and AOV. And is that driving AOV down because more people are getting that welcome offer? There's a lot of dynamics there, but definitely worth surfacing all of those and not burying it 3 pages deep in the analytics for sure. Dude,
And one
it's
thing,
crazy. I was going to say, it's crazy to think about, like, there's so much more to this. We talked a lot about this reskinning of all those custom events, but the analytics were also reskinned. And just thinking about all our new graph styles. We've got sand key graphs, which are for the data nerd in me. I'm just super pumped about. We've got all sorts of different funnels. The bar charts look really, really slick, which I'm excited about. We kept the blue bars, obviously, because
iconic, have to.
Absolutely could not stray from the blue bars. But then the other thing is there's like a lot of these confidence interval charts where you have the measured value that we see, okay, we're measuring conversion at this, but really there's some degree of confidence around that. It could be lower, it could be higher, it could be symmetrical. It's not always symmetrical even. And so being able to represent that visually took a lot of effort on our product design team to really get that right, and both intuitive but also informative, and really express that level of uncertainty. So yeah, a lot of stuff went into this release.
I think like you hit on something there that I think I want to double down on is like the confidence of it. So like,
Yep.
hey, visualizing that. And at the beginning we talked about, hey, I just started this test and I'm seeing a 300% increase, and like, oh, that's anxiety inducing. I think one really strong component of this kind of redesign is what you just hit on there. Like, we've introduced the ability to look at StatSig on more metrics. So like I am able to decide with confidence, being able to visualize like confidence to beat control, or like probability to beat control, probability to be the best. Like, we've just made it way easier to visualize and understand like what is winning and how confident should you be in the fact that it is winning.
Yep. Yeah. It's, again, something that I don't think we've perfected, and always open to feedback on this because it's such a hard thing to do right. And people have different even tolerance for statistical significance, where some people, the change is relatively benign and down to make an 80-20 decision on this. If data supports their intuition, I think that's, in the large cases, the right call. Other times, this is a pretty high stakes one-way door, and want to have a high degree of confidence. So it's tough to strike the balance of giving people the information so that they can make confident decisions while also making this intuitive, easy, and not overwhelm with too much information as well. So yeah,
I mean,
don't know.
what it really comes down to is like build an experiment with a hypothesis, and then use the tooling here to validate, like, again, how confident do you need to be? Well, it depends on what my hypothesis was. And like, should I put custom events in place? Well, it depends. Like, if the results are contrarian to what my hypothesis was, then like I probably need to dig deeper into why. Like, maybe let's go set up some custom events and redo it again and like start to like dig in. So again, I think like the biggest thing is like the speed at which you're going to be able to evaluate and learn, and the confidence you're going to have in those decisions, and like confidence in, hey, this is a winner and I'm confident in that, or confidence to know like, oh, I probably should be a bit skeptical of this. Like, let me go dig a bit deeper.
Yep, 100%. No, I'm pumped, and like I said, open to a lot of feedback, but really excited about such a tremendous amount of work from the team. So really proud of that too.